to push back alternative routes and methods to sustain the economy. We will give you an overarching view on what Trump tariffs really mean to India. And we are going to delve into the Indian football that's now on the edge with an impending ban threat by FIFA. FIFA says, get your act together. If not, we're going to ban you. October 30th is a deadline that's been given to the Indian Football Association to get their constitution in place, get their act together, and then they will continue to remain FIFA's member. If not, we're out. And that would mean huge loss to India. And finally, we're looking at MK Stalin landing in Bihar and partaking in all the Yatras with Rahul Gandhi and Tejas Yadav. Seems like the India bloc unity visible and writ large in Bihar right ahead of polls. The headlines first. Union Cabinet, headed by Prime Minister, has approved India's bid to host the 2030 Commonwealth Games. Ahmedabad has been chosen as the ideal venue owing to its world-class stadiums and cutting-edge facilities. Amit Shah hails Operation Sindoor and Mahadev as terror warning to those who played with lives of Indian citizens. Says, while Operation Sindoor gave people satisfaction, elimination of Pahalgam attacks has instilled confidence in people. Vice President election has been scheduled. It's been announced for September 9th. Polling to take place at the Parliament House with the Electoral College that consists of all members from both houses, including those who are nominated. The Nikki Bhatti dowry murder case. Sister-in-law of Nikki Bhatti, Meenakshi, has now come out giving a whole twist to the story, saying while Nikki claims that her in-laws harassed her for dowry, I was also harassed by Nikki's father and mother for dowry. She says dowry harassment was on for many years and that Nikki's father pressed for a Scorpio despite car and gold given to them. This gives a new dimension to probe altogether. Heavy rains that triggered landslides in Jammu, including Vaishno Devi, yesterday has taken the death toll to 34. The LG Governor, Manoj Sinha, visits the injured, makes arrangements for the deceased bodies to be sent home. TVK party member Sharat Kumar alleges being manhandled by the party chief, Vijay's bouncer, at the Madurai conference while he attempted to approach him on the ramp stage, where he now has faced a chest injury. In fact, the man was literally thrown off the stage by bouncers. It was his mistake, but now complaint has been filed against Vijay and the bouncers. Uddhav Thackeray visits Raj Thackeray for Ganesh Puja with his family. The cousins reunite after 20 years, sparking political buzz ahead of BMC polls 2026. Raj Thackeray broke away from Shiv Sena in 2005 to form MNS and have come together recently over the Hindi imposition row in the state of Maharashtra. Khalistani leader Pannun defends Punjab origin truck driver in US fatal crash. Harjinder Singh, accused of killing 3 with illegal U-turn, worked in US unlawfully. Kremlin rejects European peacekeeping troops in Ukraine. Moscow also rules out quick Putin-Zelensky meeting. Russian spokesperson Peskov says war began to block NATO presence in Ukraine. All right, before I start, I'd like to wish all our viewers a very happy Ganesh Chaturthi. Now let's start with the Trump tariffs. Trump's 50% tariffs on Indian exports are now in effect, and the shock is already rippling through the Indian economy. Gems, jewelry, textiles, leather, furniture, garments, auto exports, auto parts particularly, and seafood. We're looking at all of these sectors that will be heavily impacted in India. Nearly every labor-intensive sector could be hit. Surat's diamonds, Tirupur's garments, Moradabad's brass and carpets, Andhra's shrimp farms, all now staring at a near collapse. 70% of their business would be hit. Experts warn Exports to the United States could shrink by almost half, falling from what was 86 billion, that will be now 50 billion odd by next year. Now that would really wipe out hundreds and thousands of jobs in India and hand businesses to rivals like Vietnam, Bangladesh, and above all to China. For India, the United States is its largest trading partner. India dealt with the United States as its largest trading partner with nearly $212 billion trading revenue. But for Washington, for the United States, India is not, making this a heavy one-sided blow certainly. Trump's justification here is India's continued purchase of Russian oil, which the White House says indirectly funds Moscow's war on Ukraine. The Modi government has called the move as unfair, justified. Of course, India now crying foul. The cushion that Prime Minister Modi is giving for India, multiple relief measures that's been announced, verbal assurance has come in to cushion this hit. The Modi government has rolled out some relief measures that include GST reforms, income tax cuts, subsidies for exporters, and a push for self-reliance. The Prime Minister, in fact, on the Independence Day speech said India must become self-reliant and not out of desperation but out of sheer pride. So he's been really pushing in that direction. And we were already on that track. It seems like now the Trump tariffs has only escalated this further or expedited it. And now India is hitting back in many ways. We hear India is, of course, doing everything it can to stabilize the economy, one of which the Indian government has decided to unveil its first countermeasure, 40-country outreach drive to push the Indian textiles and apparels, which is the biggest market that will be hit owing to Trump tariffs, into new markets now. Now, this new campaign targets big economies like UK, Japan, South Korea, Germany, France, and Australia, along with other emerging markets, all to cut reliance on the United States. In fact, together, these nations import over 590 billion worth of textiles annually, and India's share in the 590 billion is barely 5 to 6%. So India is now looking at increasing that figure and pushing to these countries our finest textiles. The new campaign wants to position India as a reliable supplier of sustainable and innovative products, with export promotion councils and Indian missions leading this push. Meanwhile, we hear the Commerce Ministry in India is set to be meeting with the exporters across shrimp, leather, jewelry and chemicals to work out relief. Conversations are on to see how there could be some subsidy given to them, some kind of push and cushioning, additional push for them to sustain this period and also push them into other emerging markets. A long-term export promotion mission is on the cards, leveraging new trade deals with the UK and EFTA countries to absorb this shock. But Trump's tariffs are also shifting geopolitics. India is now warming up with countries like China, who we didn't see eye to eye for a long time. Now, with China, we had a trade deal of nearly $136 billion just a few years ago until we were great with them. And it seems like President Putin of Russia is now set to visit Delhi as well. India doubling down on its relationship with Russia despite Trump tariff. So in a way, Trump really pushing India to its neighboring countries, and that is something that Trump might not have expected. Markets are nervous though, Sensex already slipping by 1%, but New Delhi, India insists that it won't let tariffs choke exports. Instead, it's turning now the crisis into opportunity. We hear a lot of measures being adopted now, and India currently on overdrive, the Indian government and policymakers, to ensure all our goods is pushed into new other markets. Joining me live to discuss a little more on Trump tariffs and how it begins today, what impact could we see with immediate effect, Ambassador Meera Shankar, former Indian ambassador to the United States, joins us. We also have Jayant Das Gupta, former ambassador to WTO, and Mitli Nikore, founder and chief economist of Nikore Associates, Dr. Amalendu Misra, Professor of International Politics, Lancaster University. Thank you very much. Let me bring in the economists first. Mitali Nikore, your take, ma'am, on this very tariff that we've been slapped with. We know that India has geared up to try and push ourselves into other emerging markets, but how long do you think that will take to happen? What kind of immediate impact and effect would we see on the Indian economy?
No, absolutely. And thanks a lot for involving me in today's discussion. I think the government has really been, very quick to respond and to understand the magnitude of this crisis. So I've actually spent the whole day pretty much speaking to a number of MSME association and industry associations as we research this issue in depth. And what we're realizing is that there are certain clusters where there's almost been a complete stoppage of production from today. And Tirupur, some units in Tirupur are part of that. Some units in Noida and even in Gurgaon are part of that in the textile space. In the other industries, there's no stoppage of production, but they are, ruminating other measures. One of the measures which is very critical for all industries, especially the MSMEs, is to use third party exports. So, sort of saying, take your goods to a third country like a Bangladesh or a Sri Lanka, do some more value addition there, and, then export from there. The gems and jewelry sector, number of statements also being issued by the gems and jewelry sector that they might do this last value addition in the UAE and then move from there. So I think a lot of new markets are being explored for the second round of value addition of products. But the people who will lose out the most are really the workers, the employees, who work in these factories, and the lowest common denominator, the lowest level of workers, because they are the unskilled workers. They cannot move, and these job losses are something that we haven't yet estimated what the numbers could be, but they could be fairly high. So I think
Yeah.
the need for the government to come in here is very quick, and they have been very quick to respond as well.
Okay, well, the government has responded saying that we're going to give some subsidies to cushion this impact. But who foots the bill for these subsidies? Taxpayers?
No, of course. I mean, this will have a fiscal impact at the end of the day when, this comes out from the government budget. But in a situation like this, where it's really the common person who's going to be much more impacted. And in fact, the biggest impact could come on the women workers in many of these textile, production houses. That's where the government really has a case to step in, and they really have to step in. Emergency financing is one way. Opening new doors into new markets is a second way. And I think the long term support mission, which is being talked about, this long term export promotion mission, is the most critical piece of the puzzle, because coming to 40 new countries marketing your products is not possible for MSMEs. It's a very costly proposition. So in this situation, the government has to come in and provide that financial support before MSMEs and other industry leaders can come in.
Okay, and that support has been assured by the government verbally, by the central bank, the central government. A word of assurance has come, but there's no policy rollout as yet on how this would really trickle in, what kind of benefits would people get. And interestingly, from what we see here, as much as we would say with pride that India is self-sustained, made in India is thriving and whatnot, this blow will be harsh because India and the United States traded heavily. In fact, for the United States, India may not be the largest exporter or importer, but for India, United States was the biggest trade partner. So it will deal a blow to the economy, and from what we see, the IMF projecting 6.4% growth for 2026. With Trump tariffs now, not too sure if we're going to achieve that figure. And how far will that figure be impacted? We'll come to that. But on the geopolitics side, if I could bring in Ambassador Meera Shankar. Ambassador Meera Shankar, you've been in the United States, extensively learned the relationship between the two countries. We saw Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump having this growing bromance. For the last decade, they had a great relationship, and it's come crashing down. And how? It almost feels like India thought that Trump would take a U-turn. At every given point, we thought that Trump would back off and say, all right, we're friends. Let's give you this. Let's credit you, and give you this leeway. But that hasn't happened. In fact, China got that leeway. Despite buying from Russia, China still does not get that additional 25%.
So that's why some analysts are saying that it's a dual message, and India's got caught in the US global geopolitical agenda. So India is being used to A, send a warning to Russia, B, send a message to China that the US doesn't seek to contain it through the sanctions tariffs which have been imposed on India but not on China, and so on. There's also speculation that this might be the result of personal pique by President Trump against India because a trade deal was almost ready. And, Scott Bessent had said, the US Commerce Secretary had said that India could be probably one of the first countries with whom they signed a deal. I don't think that the Indian side believed that the US will somehow ease off the tariffs, because going by what President Trump has done and his seriousness over this was quite clearly indicated. So I think that there has been an estimation also what the costs would be, because what we see is that the tariffs are now being used for non-trade purposes, to actually then control foreign and strategic policy, and to, say that India can do this, can't do that. I think that is something which is unacceptable. And as far as the trade talks go, I think the farm sector is a very crucial sector for India, because 50% of our population survives on it, and these are subsistence farmers with less than 2-acre farms. They really can't compete with the mega corporations of the US. So in that sense, I think any government in India would find it difficult to open up the agriculture sector wholesale. But there were products which we were buying from the US in the agriculture sector, and also scope to purchase more. And I'm sure those offers were made, and that's why it was believed that a deal was almost done, almost ready. But I think that, as I said, these two reasons, one is personal pique, perhaps at the fact that India publicly contradicted his claim that he mediated an end to the military conflict.
Ego, because India has not acknowledged Trump's mediation. It's just plain bruised ego.
Well, it's a mix, I would say, and the other is because there was pressure to do something, and Trump has not put additional sanctions on Russia after the talks.
Yeah.
And B,
and Trump is not exploring multiple energy deals with Russia as we speak.
Yeah, if I may, he has also not put any tariffs on China. He's not put any tariffs on EU, which is the largest importer of gas from Russia still. And China imported $10 billion worth more of energy from Russia than we did. He hasn't put tariffs on Turkey. So the basic question remains, it's a bit of a puzzle why this has been done. But I think
Trump's justification to trade bodies and whoever's asking, basically, is that India has heavy tariffs on US goods. Trump particularly points at India's 39% average tariff on agricultural imports compared to America's 4% that they put on Indian imports. So,
let me say that agriculture is quite often a protected sector in many countries, including the EU. And in fact, the WTO deal was first done when eventually agriculture was kept out of the scope of the WTO deal. And even now, in the mini deals that the US has done with Japan and the EU, they haven't requested them to open up their agriculture markets wholesale. I mean, the EU has agreed to some things, but they still have restrictions on entry of genetically modified products. Similarly, Japan has agreed to open up its rice market for the US, but they import rice in any case, but not the wholesale opening up of agriculture, even though these countries are not really having such a vast population dependent on agriculture. So, whatever it is, it's a bit startling, and it could also be that having built up this huge thing that he's going to slap China with tariffs, will be the heaviest tariffs ever, and then having been forced to climb down because China used its leverage through dominance of critical minerals and rare earths, that Trump had to walk back, that then you find a more manageable large target, and that's India. Because India doesn't have leverage vis-a-vis the US, at least economically. We export more to the US than we import, and there's really nothing that we export which the US could not get from other sources. So it is a harsh blow. It erodes trust, and India will have to see how it copes with it, both through a mix of trade diversification, stepping up the pace of searching for new markets, providing fiscal support to sectors which may be impacted, particularly labor-intensive sectors. I wouldn't call it subsidy, as you have used several times. I would call it financial support, because subsidy is a very loaded word as far as the WTO is concerned. And the third element would be internal reforms to make trading easier, clearing logistic bottlenecks, clearing bureaucratic regulatory hurdles, so that it's much easier for our exporters to actually export. So I think there are a range of issues which need to be tackled, and with a sense of urgency as far as India is concerned. Geopolitically, we are trying to rebalance, if you will, the opening to Russia again. I mean, we've always had a good relationship with Russia, but
we're basically doubling down, and that just speaks of India's
China
autonomy.
As well,
yeah.
China as well.
Yeah.
But again, as far as China is concerned, I think that there will be, some limits.
Correct.
To which
ma'am, I will come back to
without...
you on that. We will revisit relationship with China. But Jayan Das Gupta, your take on America saying one of the only reasons that India gets the highest tariffs is because India has not budged when it comes to negotiations. 5 rounds fell flat because America pushed for an opening into India's agricultural sector and asked for India to reduce tariffs on US goods. But India has imposed 36% tariffs for US agricultural imports, but Indian agricultural exports to US, they had imposed only 4% tariffs. So Trump said India has taken US for a ride for way too long. It's now time to get back. I'm not getting into the other 25% on Russian oil imports.
Well, I think President Trump, is way off the mark in terms of the tariffs that India charges. And what he is referring to is the average applied tariffs, which is quite different from the weighted mean of the tariffs which India applies. It is comparing apples with oranges. So let us not get into that, because that is, I think, past history, because now he is fixating on the purchase of Russian oil. I think the GM crop issue, the soya, the corn, and the dairy products access, that has all been pushed to the background, and it is now about Russian oil. That is his now pet peeve about India. And as Ambassador Meera Shankar has pointed out very clearly, the Europeans buy a lot more of gas and oil put together. They buy about 22% of what Russia sells in the global market. The Chinese buy a hell of a lot more. And India comes in the third position. Of course, Turkey is also there. And they have not been touched at all by the tariffs, the secondary tariffs, as we say, on the purchase of Russian oil. The other point is that Brazil has actually got a trade deficit with the US, and still it has been slapped with 50% tariffs. So, first you decide what kind of tariff you want to
So
apply.
there's
and
really
then
no
you look
one
around
formula
for a
fits
reason.
all when Trump is dealing with nations on tariff. Clearly, it's mostly his ego at play.
So it is not, it is bereft of any rationality or logic. Because, in the case of Brazil, why would he slap tariffs on Brazil, which has a trade deficit with respect to the US? So I don't think this makes any sense at all. And as far as the industry is concerned, Indian industry, the government is taking steps. They have made an outreach to 40 countries. They planned an outreach to 40 countries for textiles and clothing, which is very, labor-intensive industry and provides the largest employment in
Correct.
India after agriculture.
But do you
But
believe?
it will take time.
How long do you believe that this 40 country outreach will take to ease this pain of the textile traders? We know that there are new markets like UK, Japan, South Korea, Germany, France and Australia, precisely the countries that now India is pushing textiles to export textiles into these countries. Are these markets right now wanting to deal with India on textiles? I mean, is there a need for that kind of, or is there a demand within these countries for Indian textiles? How do you think that these countries are going to respond to India's push in that space?
The short answer to that is that India already has an FTA with Japan and Korea, and a lot of the textiles and clothing lines are already included at zero duty or near zero duty. So I don't think we will, in a hurry, we are going to get additional market access there. But there is, we are negotiating an FTA with the EU, which is slated to be concluded by November, December this year. And the EU provides a 9.6% advantage to many of our competitors like Vietnam, like Bangladesh, like Pakistan in textiles and clothing. So if we were to get zero duty access, if we were to conclude this FTA, it would be a huge advantage for Indian exporters to get an additional market. And of course, we will have to compete with the other countries which also have lower duty access. So it is a question of competition. It is a question of getting our own act together in reducing our transaction costs, as Ambassador Shankar mentioned, about ease of doing business in short. And the other point is that, there will be pain. We have to, if we were to give up our strategic autonomy, if we were to go crawling back to the US, if I may put these hard words in use, and to say that, all right, we will give you zero duty access in everything, but you slap us with whatever tariffs you feel is appropriate for us. That is not going to be taken to very kindly by the Indian public and India. And so it is out of the question. We will
that we
not
can't
give up
look
on
desperate or needy with the United States right now. And India has its own pride. Made in India is already in momentum. So this really pushes us to escalate that. But, at the end of it, it's the poor, it's those who are impacted who can really speak. We could just be here today discussing this. So I request you to give me a moment. We'll slip into a short commercial break. I will come back to all of you. Stay with us.
Papa, let's go to Duda. Happy birthday, Duda. Duda, I love you. Go, Duda, go. I love my Duda. I love my Duda.
Skoda.
Go condoms?
It's over there.
क्या ये डिफरेंट साइजेस में आता है?
Actually, sir, size matter नहीं करता.
तो फिर क्या मैटर करता है?
The hardness
of the condom.
of what's inside.
For the first time ever, presenting Hard Rock Gel.
अब free हर score condoms के 10 पैक के साथ.
तुझको जो मैं हो जाऊं पागल, बूम बूम
glow different when you're in love. 16 million shades of love to choose from. Unlimited love. B6. Mahindra Electric Origin SUVs.
All right, let me quickly bring in our guests on that. I, in fact, had Dr. Amlendu, before I get back to Jayandas Gupta, Dr. Amlendu Mishra, who's a professor of international politics at Lancaster University. Your take on Leicester University, I beg your pardon. Your take on the tariffs imposed on India. We are looking at the United States boasting that at this point, Trump has given a recent soundbite or spoken to the media saying that now we're getting billions and billions of dollars into the government coffers after appropriate tariffs were levied on countries. Countries have now complied, all this while they were taking America for a ride. Now money is coming in to government coffers. So he's boasting of it. But on the other hand, I hear that America is set for inflation, that the country isn't economically doing very well, and this could be just posturing by Donald Trump at this point. What's, in your view, the condition or the status of America at this? Do you think these tariffs are really benefiting the people of America? Their America First push, is this really going to help them achieve that?
Well, good evening to all the viewers. First of all, Donald Trump likes a good soundbite. He likes to hear his own voice, and he doesn't let an opportunity pass by without boasting about what he has done. So let me do a bit of a psychoanalysis of the reason why President Trump is imposing this tariff on India. He has been a complete and utter failure in terms of his foreign policy. The escalation of war in Gaza continues. Israel does whatever it wants to do. It doesn't care tools about Washington. So that's a complete failure. And you have seen the bleeding Ukrainian war, which he has promised that will end within 30 days of his taking over the office, Oval Office. And there hasn't been any kind of positive kind of movement in that particular direction. So what is happening here is that he was basically looking for a fall guy, the weak link. He couldn't do that with China because China is the biggest creditor to the United States. He couldn't do that with the European Union because their strategic partnership is something that will undermine the United States. And India is a rising power, and it wanted to give it a bloody nose, the Trump administration. So they was looking for a fall guy, and India happens to be the one that fits the bill here. So that could be the psychoanalysis. And to go back to your question about how is it going to impact American economy, let's not forget that it is a two-way process. Yes, India is going to be hit hard, but at the same time, American consumers are also going to get hit hard. I mean, if they're used to, let's say, for example, seafood, if they're used to cheap textile products, if they're used to, let's say, for example, medicine and so on and so forth, they are going to be affected. Okay, they will have different sources, but it's not the same thing as getting your basmati from India compared to your basmati from Vietnam, for that matter. So Trump administration is going through the inflation argument. We still have to wait and see what the current figures are, because there is a lot of talk on that. Unless and until we have that in paper, so we can't say how the economy is doing in America.
So is there a magic formula on how this could find a solution? Could we fix this problem? Jayandas Gupta, I cut you short previously.
No, I just wanted to add on this point that the Congressional and Budget Office has calculated that if all the assumptions go right, then by 2035, which is another 10 years from now, a corpus of $4 trillion, $4,000 billion would have been collected by the US Treasury by way of additional revenue on account of the Trump tariffs. But that is, making a huge lot of assumptions. And if, as you mentioned a short while ago, if inflationary pressures kick in, they have already started kicking in, and the inflation index now is about 3% currently, and President Trump is at great pains to pressure the Federal Reserve into lowering the interest rates.
Yeah.
Because with the rise in inflation, the tendency of the Federal Reserve or any central banker is to raise the rates of lending. And that is why there is a direct conflict with Jerome Powell. And now he is targeted Lisa Cook, another member of the Federal Reserve. And he's given her marching orders. And Lisa Powell, of course, has threatened to take him to court, saying that he doesn't have the powers to remove her from office. So it is unfolding. And with inflation rising, with the common man getting hurt, and the midterm elections, just around the corner, the preparations for it would have begun by now, but they would be at full pitch by early spring. And then there would be a backlash. There would be pressure on President Trump, not only from the common man on the street, but from Republicans who would be fighting the midterm elections and would ask President Trump to back off, to roll back the tariffs. Whether India will benefit from that or not is another question.
I really appreciate all of you. Yes, ma'am.
If I may, 2 points I'd like to just mention here when you mentioned the difference in tariffs on agri markets. The fact is that it is America which is absolutely destroying the WTO. India is complying with its WTO commitments, and its actual tariffs are lower than the tariffs which were bound in the WTO by India as part of a multilateral agreement. So let's not forget the basics. When you're talking about differential in tariffs, those differences were negotiated and agreed upon as part of a multilateral agreement.
We hear you. I apologize, ma'am. I'm very short on time here, but I really appreciate all of you taking your time and joining us with those views. We're really looking forward to see how India's economy stabilizes. The impact hasn't yet been felt, but it could be coming soon. And we hear Prime Minister Modi, we are going to be following up on what the government plans to cushion it. Thanks very much, Ambassador Meera Shankar, Mithili Nikore, Amlendu Mishra and Jayant Das Gupta. Let me quickly cut across now to our big story on Indian football. It seems like a game that India is not yet aced, but still takes a lot of pride in, is now in trouble. Indian football is on the brink of another ban. FIFA and the Asian Football Confederation have warned the All India Football Federation, fix your constitution by October 30th or face suspension. Basically, the constitution here is the rule book that the Indian Football Association has to follow, like every country does. So why this crisis here? The AIFF, All India Football Federation, has been dragging its feet for nearly 8 years. Its constitution, which is the rule book on how Indian football is governed, is still stuck in the Supreme Court. And at the heart of this dispute are some of the power struggles, how many votes state associations should control, whether former players should get a stronger voice, and transparency around commercial deals like the ISL, the Indian Super League partnership. In fact, in 2022, the Supreme Court had appointed a committee of administrators to run the All India Football Federation, but FIFA at that point said third-party interference is not encouraged and therefore we are suspending India instantly. We understand that the association that was set up by the Supreme Court to basically fix the issues within the All India Football Federation was finally dissolved. The COA was dissolved and elections were held as per the norms, and Kalyan Chaubey became the president. But the catch is, elections happened, yet the revised constitution itself has never been approved or ratified, which the FIFA has observed and warned India that you fix it, if not you're out of FIFA. The legal deadlock now continues. What happens if India really gets suspended again by FIFA? Then our national team and our clubs will be barred from all international tournaments. The Indian Super League clubs could also collapse. In fact, we hear some of the clubs are already struggling. Salaries aren't paid on time. Some of them have suspended operations and players are staring at quite a crisis. The clubs there are in doldrums, we hear. India could also have a big hit, and our dream of hosting the 2036 Olympics could be impacted. So a lot of repercussions if at all FIFA bans India. FIFA says, get your constitution in order by October 30th. If not, you lose partnership with us. The clock is indeed ticking. To give us a little sense on what this means, we have Jaideep Basu, senior sports journalist, and also Shaji Prabhakaran, executive committee member, Asian Football Confederation and South Asian Football Federation. In fact, we just have Shaji on here. Dr. Shaji, your take on Indian football on the edge with FIFA threatening a ban. Why is it so hard for Indian football to come up with its constitution, a rule book that we can play by? So many different voices, so many different opinions, and we hear 8 years the problem hasn't been fixed. What an embarrassment.
Yeah, I think, in past, it was avoidable, definitely. But, as we all understand how, our legal system works, and we cannot blame the legal system at all. But then at the end, the people who are governing the game, have to be proactive in taking the right decision at the right time. And that is where it is very important. And I think, we should not scare anyone, but we should be hopeful that everything will be done within the stipulated time, and everything will be back to normal. That is what I can think, because all are powerful, and if all the stakeholders come together, work in unity, work in unison, I am sure.
Stakeholders coming together. Shaji, can you hear me? Am I audible to you?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, why aren't the stakeholders coming together? Why is it taking nearly a decade for the Indian Football Federation to come on the same platform and agree with the same norms?
I think it's again somebody has to take the lead, and we are unfortunately the leadership is missing, and that is where the whole problem is today. And it is unfortunate situation because it is embarrassing as well. But I'm sure everything will go fine from here onwards, and I'm very confident that things will go normal very soon, and we will not get to that situation again. And it will be very catastrophic for
sorry,
football.
Suppose if at all the ban goes forward, tell me what will India lose? Of course, it's a matter of prestige that we will not be part of FIFA will be a huge blow to our prestige. But apart from that, how will it really trickle down to giving a blow to the game in itself?
So the biggest losers will always be the players, the game, yeah, and that is what we all have to work towards. That we should never get to that situation, because if the football is not played on the pitch, then whoever is part of the game is definitely doesn't help. So therefore, what I think is, again, I am saying everything will go well, but if that situation arises, then the game is a loser in every aspect. Our women will suffer, our boys will suffer, development work will suffer, the investment will suffer, the credibility will suffer. So therefore, there is a lot to lose, but I'm sure all are sensible. Those who are governing the game today, they are sensible, they are responsible, so that they.
So from what we hear, I've spoken to a couple of federation chiefs, I mean the state chiefs, and they say that we're near close to coming out with the constitution. The Supreme Court has to basically give a go-ahead. We're near close to solving this problem, because they were waiting for the sports code, which has now already come out by the central government. So it's just about time. The Supreme Court knows very well that FIFA has given this warning. So it's due to happen anytime soon. We hear a word of assurance has come. In fact, I couldn't have many of those people on board today because they claim the matter is sub judice. It's with the Supreme Court, so they're not allowed to speak. But I really appreciate, Shaji, you joining us and clarifying that all is going to be well.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, let me cut across to our top stories on day to night. Let me begin with MK Stalin, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister in Bihar. Bihar has now become the latest political battlefield as DMK President and Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin joins Rahul Gandhi's voter Adhikar Yatra. In fact, we saw M.K. Stalin accompanying Tejasvi Yadav and Rahul Gandhi in a poll-bound state like Bihar, almost sealing the pact for the India Bloc alliance, even in Bihar. This visit, of course, has come with fair share of controversy. BJP's Annamalai in Tamil Nadu has now almost confronted Stalin, saying you're the same person who made such uncouth remarks about Bihar earlier, and today you're in Bihar singing praises of the Bihar government and your allies. Basically, according to Annamalai, M.K. Stalin, his cabinet colleagues and alliance partners have said all things wrong about Biharis and North Indians, daring Stalin to repeat them on the stage in Bihar. BJP leader Narayan Tirupati also adding fuel to it, questioning Stalin's courage, calling him the Dravidian lion, challenging him to address controversial comments on Sanatan Dharma and Biharis, this time in front of the people that he allegedly mocked. So basically reminding Stalin of all the wrong things he said about Bihar and North India earlier, and now mocking him and poking him, saying you're in the same state that you badmouthed. Unfazed, M.K. Stalin has highlighted his political camaraderie with Tejasvi Yadav, calling his bond more than political, a brotherhood united to protect democracy. Let's hear it. All right, let me cut across now to Delhi. We see courts across the national capital in Delhi have fallen silent for 4 days straight. Lawyers have refused to appear in courts in protest against a new order from the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi. In fact, on August 13, the LG had allowed police officers to give evidence virtually, directly seated from their police stations, instead of actually appearing in court, which was the earlier norm. Lawyers say that this is dangerous. It gives police a lot more power and denies accused a fair trial. In fact, the argument is simple that in criminal trials, cross-examination is very important. They usually observe the body language of the person face to face. They understand the body language, the way they're hesitating, their reactions, and that's what cross-examination is all about. So a virtual testimony will not do it. They say that that leaves too much room for manipulation. So police and witnesses should not be allowed to testify virtually. The coordination committee of all Delhi district bar associations has now called this an anti-public move. Lawyers now in Delhi insist that they are not striking for money but to protect the rights of ordinary people. We see prosecutors like CBI, ED lawyers and even police officers were barred from entering these court premises all of the last 4 days. All major courts like Tis Hazari, Saket, Patiala House, Dwarka, Karkadumna, Rose Avenue, Rohini, Sharda, all of them wore a deserted look with lawyers standing out with placards and protesting against this policy that has been rolled out by the LG of Delhi. The halt means, of course, this court proceedings halting would only mean that cases will only pile up. It adds a lot more pain to litigants and the common man who are already waiting for days, months, probably years to find justice. Now the courts, but the lawyers say that this is a problem that we need to fix because this is for the people of this country. You cannot have witnesses and police testifying remotely. Cross-examination is impossible. It could be flawed. So the message from the Delhi lawyers is clear. Kala Kanun Wapas Lo, roll back the black laws, or we will continue our strike. All right, looking at a shocking case that's coming from Kerala. Award-winning Malayalam actress is at the center of a crime. Police in Kochi are now on the lookout for Lakshmi Menon, who has gone absconding after being accused of playing a key role in the abduction and assault of a 27-year-old IT professional. According to investigators, the chain of events unfolded on the night of August 24th. CCTV footage there showing this actor Lakshmi Menon and her associates blocking a car on the busy North Ernakulam bridge. Moments later, the victim, identified as Ali Arsha Salim, was dragged out of his vehicle and forced into another car. Police say the violence stemmed from an altercation that happened a little earlier that day at a bar involving Menon and her three friends, Mithun, Anish and Sonamol. What began as a feud inside the bar soon escalated into street chase, ending with abduction and the actor in the center of it. The IT employee who reportedly was beaten mercilessly across his face and body and threatened with dire consequences. Police have arrested Menin's 3 other friends, but the actress at this point, we hear, is on the run. The case has raised several troubling questions. Why does the victim's FIR still not name the actress when in the video you see her very clearly, despite her presence in the CCTV evidence as well? For now, the search for Lakshmi Menon continues. All right, cutting across to Nikki Bhatti dowry death case. There seems to be a dramatic twist in it. Just days after Nikki Bhatti's parents claimed that Nikki's in-laws demanded dowry from her and that's what led to her death, new allegations has now emerged, and this time from Nikki's own family, basically Nikki's sister-in-law, her brother's wife. Her sister-in-law Meenakshi, the estranged wife of Nikki's brother, Rohit Paila, claims that she also faced dowry harassment from Nikki's parents. Meenakshi alleges that her family had given a Maruti Suzuki Ciaz as dowry, which the Pailas reportedly sold off, calling it inauspicious. She says that her in-laws, which is Nikki's parents, demanded then a Scorpio SUV and cash, and when her family refused, she was sent back home. Rohit Paila, which is Nikki's brother, has refused to comment on this, calling this mere allegations, while a relative has said, fights happen in every house, at least we did not burn the girl. Now, these are claims. Well, we haven't heard it. These are claims and allegations and speculations that are surfacing. Though this lady here, Nikki's sister-in-law, Meenakshi, has very clearly spoken to the media and has made these allegations. If we have it, we're going to play that out for you.
क्या नाम है आपका?
मीनाक्षी भाटी।
मीनाक्षी जी, क्या आपके साथ?
मेरे को दहेज के लिए 9 साल हो गई, मुझे घर से बेघर कर रखा है मेरे ससुराल वालों ने। मुझसे दहेज मांगते हैं, वहाँ पर ले जाते तो मेरे साथ मारपीट करते थे, मुझे मारा करते थे, मेरे भैया पे गोली तक चलाई थी उन्होंने।
आज अपनी बेटी को आज दूसरी बेटी को न्याय नहीं कर सकता, वो फ्री के कैसे भोग रहा हो?
हाँ जी, मैं सिर्फ यही कहना चाहूंगी कि जो बाप अपनी बेटी के लिए इंसाफ मांग रहा है, वो दूसरे की बेटी जो पीहर में छोड़ रखी है, जो घर से बेघर कर रखी है, उसे भी इंसाफ दिला दो। पहले उसके लिए सोचो जो 9 साल से कर रखी है, तेरी तो आज हुई है, उस बेटी के लिए भी सोच लो।
All right, shifting our focus now to a horrific case in Delhi. Absolute horror, hit and run case that's come to light from Delhi's Samaipur Badli area. CCTV footage has captured a 32-year-old man being hit by a car and dragged for nearly 600 meters, leading to that man's death. The shocking and sad part is that the man behind the wheels was a boy behind the wheels was a 16-year-old boy who was a student from Rohini. He was driving that car, crashes into that man, and then continues dragging that man for nearly 600 meters. That man has succumbed. As for police investigation, the victim, Sujit Mandal, was standing outside the factory that he was working in when this red car driven by the minor hit him with such force that the man got trapped under the front of that car. What was worse is that instead of stopping, the driver dragged on. Trying to flee, he pulled the man's body for nearly 600 meters. In fact, that's what really killed him. Bystanders immediately informed the police and rushed to Sujit to the hospital, but the victim died soon after arrival. The police, on examining the CCTV footage of the accident spot, obtained the car's number plate, traced it through mobile location, and they tracked it, eventually recovering the car from Delhi's Mandauli area. And the boy has also been apprehended. The car has been seized. He's been sent to the Juvenile Justice Board. Minors driving cars and landing up in crashes, killing people, it's not new. We've heard this dime a dozen, and it seems like it's becoming a lot more common. All right, a very sad story coming in. A viral video has now sparked a lot of outrage from Noida, showing a dog with a blood-soaked face after being brutally beaten, allegedly by a Delhi police constable. Eyewitness Pankhuri, who rescued the injured dog on August 24th, says that the assault took place after the animal had reportedly bit a child. So this dog bit a child, and instead of calling the civic authorities, Omkar Singh, who's a head constable, claims that he tried to save that boy and then went on to brutalize that dog, thrashed the dog so badly, we hear that that dog has died. The sad part is that this man goes on to apologize, saying, "I tried to save the boy." But the sad part is that the bite happened, or the attack happened on the boy in the afternoon, we hear, and the constable ended up beating that dog by the evening. So it's not like the boy wasn't safe by then. The boy was taken back. He was receiving treatment, but it appears that the constable went back to almost kill that dog, and that dog died in the hospital. Despite repeated requests, police reportedly refused to file an FIR or conduct a post-mortem, citing self-defense by the constable itself. But the body of the dog was finally shuffled between multiple veterinary hospitals, and sadly the dog died. Today, after pressure from animal lovers and eyewitnesses, the police have finally agreed to register a complaint. But the disturbing question is, we're going to see lots of these cases coming to light in the days to come. All right, the story is perhaps the starkest reminder of how technology is no longer just reshaping our work lives, but also creeping deep into our personal spaces and could be pushing us to the edge. This time at the center of it is the world's most popular AI chatbot, ChatGPT. In California, the parents of a 16-year-old Adam Rain have filed a lawsuit blaming the AI ChatGPT company for their son's death, for their son's suicide. Adam began using ChatGPT last year for his schoolwork and hobbies, but his chats soon turned into a lot of confessions and an emotional bond that he seemed to have developed with ChatGPT to try and kill his loneliness. He shared a lot of dark thoughts to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT has responded very emotionally and almost talked him into suicide. In fact, we hear that he told ChatGPT that he was thinking about suicide, and it tried to calm its anxiety, but anxiety returned, and the boy continued to talk to ChatGPT, and GPT showed empathy but also guided Adam on how to finally kill himself. That's what the screenshots suggest, and that's what the family members have said in court. The lawsuit, now filed by the parents in the United States, revealed quite disturbing details. Mentions Adam in that chat with ChatGPT mentions suicide nearly 200 times in its chat, and yet ChatGPT clearly did not flag that off or divert him to take help. The AI, his lawyer says, AI responded with the word over 1,200 times and even went so far as to provide detailed instructions. So he said suicide multiple times, and ChatGPT has responded with suicide over 1,200 times and also gave him upgraded ways on how to kill himself for sure. Well, this is tragic and shocking. Adam's lawyer says that this went on for nearly 7 months without interruption, that they both, ChatGPT and he, had discussions extensively about suicide. And finally, the boy killed himself. Adam's parents are in currently unbearable grief, and they have sued AI ChatGPT. That's it for me here. Thanks very much for watching. Have a great day.
Love makes you go the distance. Unlimited Love. The B6 Pack 2 starts at 21.9 lakh.
Best है सर.
पर नया क्यों?
Architect जी, something special for you. बिरला ओपस अश्योरेंस देने के लिए.
ऐसा क्या है इसमें?
इसमें है एडवांस्ड क्वालिटी. 1 साल में पेंट को कुछ भी हुआ तो पेंटिंग वापस करके देंगे.
वापस करके देंगे.
वो भी फ्री. क्वालिटी पे इतना कॉन्फिडेंस, इसीलिए बिरला ओपस अश्योरेंस. रजिस्टर करो birlaopus.com पर.
Papa, let's go to the happy birthday to the. I love you. Go to the go.